Good evening, everyone. This is Sounds Like Kaidan Time. So, without further ado, let's get started with part 3 of Kamaitachi no Yoru. After around about 5 minutes, everybody remained silent. Finally, Toshio-san appeared on the stairs. He wasn't crying anymore, but his eyes were blood red. Upon his back, Midori's face and head could be seen, slouched over his shoulders. Toshio-san trotted down the stairs, slowly. Everybody stared in silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody even tried to help. It would be more accurate to say that nobody could help. There was a kind of atmosphere in the room that made it difficult for anyone to lend a hand. As Toshio-san descended down the stairs, he passed quietly by us and disappeared down into the corridor. I guess he was heading back to Midori-san's room. Even after Toshio-san had disappeared, nobody opened their mouths to speak. Toshio-san returned to the lounge quicker than I thought he would. There was a kind of determination that appeared on his face. So, I coughed quietly and looked around at everybody's face. So, I guess that means that everyone's here. Everybody else nodded. From now on, absolutely nobody is to separate from the rest of the group. If you need to go to the bathroom, make sure that you use the bathroom on the first floor. If for whatever reason you wish to go back to your room, make sure that you go back with 2 people or more. What exactly happened? Keiko, in a surprised manner, asked me. It seemed like she hadn't heard anything yet. Midori-san was hit by someone just before. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the rest of the story. And as if reading the expression on my face, the 3 women held onto their breath, and Aki-chan cried just as she did before. They clung together closer than they had been before, and tried to separate themselves as much as possible from the other people in the group. Mikimoto-san suddenly opened his mouth to speak. Why? Why would something like this happen? Did she go outside alone? It seemed like he had no idea what was going on. No, she was inside, but I think we all want to go back to our rooms. We don't want to be here anymore. Kaneko screamed hysterically. I'm sorry, you can't. We absolutely must stay here together. Why? This has got nothing to do with us. Leave us alone. It seemed like the three of them felt like it would be safer for them to shut themselves up in their rooms. I can't let you do that. I don't really want to tell you, but there's nothing we can do right now. You know, when Midori-san was killed just before, during that time, the only people on the second floor were Mikimoto-san and you, the three of you. What's that supposed to mean? Kaneko said, surprised. In other words, it's possible that you killed Midori. It wasn't just the three women and Mikimoto-san that wore a look of surprise on their faces. What are you talking about, Toru? Do you think girls such as these would be able to kill someone like Midori-san? Mari-san, as if she was blaming me somehow, spoke to me fiercely and pierced my chest. But I continued. It might be difficult alone. In any case, they'd be found out by the other two people. But if all three of them work together, everybody stared at the three women, dumbfounded. Quit joking around. There's no way that people like us could... Don't be stupid. Keiko said, with a somewhat hurt expression. And flustered, I tried to justify myself. Just, please, wait a second. I'm just saying that it's possible. That's all. In any case, like I said before, Mikimoto-san also it's also possible that Mikimoto-san was able to kill Midori-san. With a tired look on his face, Mikimoto-san turned around. But I had taken sleeping pills. I was fast asleep until you came into the room. Not to mention the fact that my head was all messed up and I couldn't even walk. I continued to speak, however. That could have all just been an act. Please, don't try to disagree with me just yet. What I want to say is, in order for there to be no more victims, we all need to stay together. That's all. The killer might be among us. They might be hiding somewhere in the guest house. They could be out in the snowstorm, peering in on us. I lined up all the possibilities, as much as I could think of them. In any case, if we're all together, the culprit can't make any moves. At least, it'd be difficult to make any kind of move. Everybody was silent. Everybody exchanged glances around the group, peering up at everyone's faces, as if searching them for an answer. I had intended not to say anything that was to be taken as a mistake. But no matter how I thought about it, what I'd said ended up with everyone being suspicious of each other. I guess it was a mistake to say something so unnecessary. Was it really possible, in actual fact, that someone like Mikimoto-san or the three women could kill a person like Midori-san? Really? It wasn't a 0% possibility, in any case. At the time that the glass broke upstairs, everybody was in the lounge. So both Mikimoto-san and the three women didn't have an opportunity to kill Tanaka-san. Plus, putting aside the opportunity for a moment, in any case, they didn't have any time to cut the body into pieces. So, that means that Mikimoto-san or the three women couldn't have killed Tanaka-san. But just because they couldn't have killed Tanaka-san doesn't mean that they didn't kill Midori-san. But thinking about it with common sense, there shouldn't be any reason why people like them would kill Midori-san. In any case, what we can consider is... I remembered Kobayashi-san's words. Kobayashi-san, Midori-san asked to see Tanaka-san's room, right? She said that she wanted to see it. Do you remember what she said? What her exact words were? Kobayashi's eyes fluttered for a moment after being suddenly spoken to. Yeah, I think it was something along the lines of, there's something I'm curious about, or, there's something that's bugging me about his room. No, hang on, it was a bit different. It was like this. I just remembered something. So, I'm going to look in Tanaka-san's room. That was what she said. I'm pretty sure. Something that she just remembered. Something that she just thought of, perhaps? I wonder what that could be. Going to look in Tanaka-san's room. Judging from those words, it seems only natural to think that she would have some kind of direct relation to the incident. She realized something, and perhaps she was able to find out who the real culprit was. And perhaps she started questioning the culprit. Or, when she was searching the room, she was found and then killed by the culprit. That would be the most natural way to think about the situation. Of course, it's not like you wouldn't be able to consider it a different way. For example, somebody like Kobayashi-san or his wife Kyoko, or even Toshio-san, people that knew Midori-san. Perhaps they actually resented her in actual fact. That's plausible in any case. But in any case, right now, I guess we should think that the person that killed Tanaka-san, in order to silence Midori-san, killed her. Amongst the entire group, the only person that could have killed Tanaka-san was Toshio-san. But Toshio-san didn't have any opportunity to kill Midori-san. The people that were able to kill Midori-san were Mikimoto-san and the three women. But they couldn't have killed Tanaka-san. What have you been mumbling about? Mari said anxiously. I'm just trying to sort out the incidents in my head. And? I'm just confused. I don't know what's going on anymore. As if you don't know what's going on. The killer is someone outside of the group. There's some awful murderer wandering around this area somewhere. What we need to think about right now is how to protect ourselves from this person, Mari said. And as if in agreement, Kyoko and Haruko nodded. That's right, Haruko-san said, unusually. There's nothing good to come of us just being suspicious of each other. We have to believe each other for the time being. This was Kayama-san who replied, as if to soothe his wife's anxieties. Haruko, it's not that easy, you know. It's like Toru-kun says. We have to think about every possibility, you know. If we don't, we might not be able to survive until morning. But there's no use. There's no use protesting. At times like this, a woman should shut up and listen to what the man has to say. That's exactly what he says. Phew. I wonder if Kayama-san is always trying to silence his wife like this. Shh. Or maybe he's just trying to show the affectations of a husband in front of everyone else. Either way, that's a problematic bit of writing there. Well, we're all close acquaintances, and, well, the amount of people who aren't close acquaintances are more than those that are acquaintances, but I don't want to think about everyone here is some kind of cold-blooded killer. But having said that, I guess this guest house isn't really that big of a building after all. After having said that, I took a look around at Kobayashi-san to make sure that he hadn't taken it the wrong way. But Kobayashi-san seemed like he didn't mind what I was saying at all. What I mean is, basically, it's not some kind of huge hotel with lots of blind spots, which would make it easier for people to hide in. And in any case, the whole place had been locked tight. Even if it was some kind of pro-burglar, do you really think someone would have been able to sneak in freely like that? To be honest, I don't know what we should believe or who we should believe. Not sure if it's some killer who's just appeared in the guest house, or whether the murderer is someone who looks like they wouldn't hurt a fly. I've just no idea, I said, shaking my head. So, in other words, it's got nothing to do with you. That's what it sounds like to me, Toshio-san said, as if spitefully. What do you mean? I mean what I said. That means that you're a suspect as well, Toru. But after dinner I didn't go upstairs, not even once. There's no way I could have killed Tanaka-san. Let alone Midori-san. That's not something I saw with my own eyes. That's just you saying it. There's no use of girlfriend trying to support you either. You could just as easily believe what she's saying to be a lie as well. Well, if that's what you think, Toshio-san, allow me to say this, I said, beginning to get angry. Wasn't it you that attacked Mikimoto-san? He said he didn't see the criminal. So in other words, isn't the person that was directly behind him, in other words you, the most suspicious? As if. Kobayashi-san was way out in front of me. And he was the one that found Mikimoto-san collapsed on the ground. He was the first one to arrive, you know? Isn't that right, Kobayashi-san? Huh? Yeah, that's right. Kobayashi-san looked troubled and gave a half-hearted reply. I didn't see that coming. When I found Kobayashi-san, I saw Toshio-san holding Mikimoto-san, not Kobayashi-san. So I had completely thought that Kobayashi-san had come from behind. So does that mean that Kobayashi-san is more suspicious? Kobayashi-san, Mikimoto-san took a long hard look at both Toshio-san and Kobayashi-san. Stop it, please, Kyoko said, collapsing into tears. Let's just stop hurting each other like this. expressions of regret appeared on both Kobayashi-san and Toshio-san's faces. I'm sure the same expression of regret was on mine as well. I couldn't bear the feelings of contempt exuding from Mari. The cuckoo clock sounded. Suddenly it was 11:30. The snowstorm outside still showed no signs of ceasing. Ah, that's right, the news. We forgot to look at the news. Look at the news, Kayama-san said suddenly. Really, dear, at this point in time, we might be able to see the weather report. In any case, it'll be something to get our mind off the situation. That might be the right thing to do, I thought. Without listening to replies from anyone else, Kayama-san reached for the remote and turned the TV on. Flipping through the channels, he managed to find one that showed the news headlines. Reports of large snow falling all across the country. There have been cases of traffic accidents, avalanches, but at this point, there have been no casualties. No casualties. Upon hearing those words, every single one of us found ourselves looking up to the second floor. There's a report from some unconnected news story, and then next up we bring you a report on an escaped bank robber. Yesterday, around afternoon, an attack was made on the Mitsutomo Bank Shinjuku branch, and approximately, more than 20 billion in cash was stolen, and the culprit is yet to be found. According to eyewitness accounts, the culprit's height is 165 centimeters, and he's a thinning man. The police are currently investigating the car he used to escape, which is a black coupe, and are continuing the investigation. Come to mention it, on the car on the way here, I remembered hearing news on the radio about a bank robbery. After then, I had barely looked at the newspaper or even watched the television, so I didn't know that he was still on the run. There's no use continuing an investigation if the day's already over. He might have already fled to somewhere like Southeast Asia or something like that, Kayama-san said, blowing air through his nose. Perhaps he was speaking like that just to make us feel better, get our minds off the situation. I decided to join in on the conversation. There's no way you can get on an airplane with 20 billion yen. think that's how much it is. 2 billion, maybe? Nioku. 100 million. So 200 million. 200 million yen. Why, you don't know that? For some people, 200 million yen might not be all that much. It doesn't look that conspicuous. And if they're new banknotes, they'd fit perfectly into a suitcase. Yeah, but Mani-san decided to join our conversation. But even if you were able to take it on board an airplane, you wouldn't be able to go to a different country. Even if you went to a bank, they'd know straight away. Oh, that's just how an amateur'd think. Well, the yen's strong. Much better than the dollar in any case. There'd be loads of people in the black market that'd be able to swap it over to the local currency for you. Well, if it was me, Toshio-san said, joining the conversation. It seemed like it was a good way to get our minds off the incidents. Well, if it was me, I'd want to stay in Japan. If you were to escape from a place like Japan, you don't think they'd want to go somewhere where everything's cheap. Living in Japan, you need money, right? So I'd probably go out to the countryside and just wait for things to cool down. I thought that could be possible, but Kayama-san shook his head. No way. People that live out in the countryside, they know everybody that comes in and out. If you're not going to a different country, then it's best to stay in a city. But it's only human nature to not be anywhere near the scene of the crime, right? Yeah, they can't deal with that kind of conscience, so that's how they get arrested. Sure. You know, pretty much all criminals that do this kind of thing, they're pretty stubborn, you know. It seemed as if Kayama-san was somehow telling me to be more stubborn. Or if it's a place that's known for its tourism, there'd be lots of people that would be coming and going, right? People from different places, Mari-san said suddenly. Well, I guess if it's somewhere that's where it's the peak season, like a ski resort during peak season, for example. Upon hearing Kayama-san say this, everybody suddenly locked eyes. Huh? What's with all of you looking like that? What if... No, it's too ridiculous, I said, cutting myself off. What? What's too ridiculous? No, forget it, it's fine. Now listen, boy, you gotta say what you want to say properly, Kayama-san said, and I took a look at the faces of everyone in the room. It seemed like there were quite a few people amongst us that had thought the same. Okay, I'll tell you, but you have to promise not to laugh. I was thinking maybe the person that killed Tanaka-san could be the bank robber that's on the run. Nobody laughed. Steeling myself, I decided to ask Kobayashi-san. Around how tall would you say Tanaka-san would be? Thinking for a while, Kobayashi-san replied. Pretty tall, I'd say. Maybe 175? Maybe more than that? I think. 175 centimeters. On the news, they said that the culprit was 165. That's too much of a difference. But now that you mention it, he did have a bit of an odd vibe about him. He did have a bag that looked like a ski bag, but it really didn't look like he'd come to ski. Not at all. Wait a sec, Mari-san said. For a bank robbery, isn't a driver usually necessary? In that case, maybe Tanaka-san was the driver in this case. Maybe there was some kind of falling out amongst the other people involved, and he was killed by his co-conspirators. Yeah, I guess that's possible. So the culprit would be some kind of thin man of about 165 centimeters. I found myself looking around at everybody's bodies. Kayama-san, at least, wasn't thinning at all, so he was right out. Both Mikimoto-san and Toshio-san, they were too tall. The person that was closest was Kobayashi-san. In any case, Kobayashi-san was both 165 centimeters tall, and he was thin. A weak smile crept onto Kobayashi-san's face as he felt everyone looking at him. Wait a second. This joke has gone far enough. It's ridiculous to associate something you've seen on the news with what's happened here. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's right. And besides, someone like Kobayashi-san has no reason to attack a bank in Tokyo. He's working here every day, after all, Kayama-san said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Yeah, there's no way it'd be Kobayashi-san. Either way, the person that did the murders and the person that did the bank robbery, it was too much of an implausible idea that they were both the same person. I felt stupid raising such an idea, but seeing as Kayama-san urged me to do it, I just did it. That's all. It's not like I was actually thinking that way. But Mari continued to speak. But in terms of the way of thinking, It was possible, wasn't it? What do you mean? Well, anyway, you look at it, this Tanaka-san guy, he just didn't look like he'd come to ski. It seemed like he wanted to get away from everyone. He didn't want to be seen. So I'm sure there's some kind of dark reason behind his presence here in the guest house. That was something that I'd been thinking about ever since I discovered the dead body. It was just such a strange corpse. It seemed totally unreal, completely removed from everyday life. I couldn't find anything to... It was unbelievable. And the way they'd been killed just wasn't natural. It wasn't something that a normal human like one of us could have done. The killer was, without a doubt, someone who existed on the fringes of society. Some strange individual. At least, that's the kind of thinking I found myself. That's the kind of train of thought I found myself following. But what kind of person, what kind of sane person would kill someone and cut them into pieces like that? For me, even when I see someone getting injection in a movie or a TV show, I find myself trying to avert my eyes. If I was asked to cut someone into pieces, I wouldn't do it for any amount of money. Even if I had some kind of special reason. Huh? I suddenly found myself thinking about something. Was there some reason the culprit had to have to cut Tanaka-san's body into pieces? If there was, what would it be? So we got a couple of decisions here. So we can choose whether... We can choose what kind of reason they might have had, or what we think they might have had. A is to hide their identity. Presumably the identity of the body, I guess. B is to carry it somewhere, to move it somewhere else. Or C is just for resentment, some kind of grudge. So, yeah, I mean, either of these are kind of possible. I don't know. We could keep going with our A path. Or I'm kind of into B, to kind of take it somewhere. But they just left it there. Which is a bit strange. I imagine that all the pieces of the body are there. Was the head there? I can't remember if the head was there. I feel like Because if the head wasn't there, then that would make sense if the reason for cutting up the body was to hide the identity. But if the head was there, then they'd be able to be identified just straight away, I guess. Unless it was somehow kind of just completely destroyed. Look, we'll just go with A and see where that leads us. We'll stay with the A path. Perhaps to conceal his identity? No, if that was the case, they would have had to cut off the head. Thought so. Whoops. You wouldn't go to all the effort of cutting someone into pieces just for that reason. And it's strange to think that then you'd have to put the head in a completely different place. All these suspicions wandered around my head in vague shapes and forms. No matter how much I tried to grasp one of them, I couldn't. And I found myself being overcome with annoyance. So maybe that decision didn't make that much difference after all. It was just kind of for a bit of a different dialogue path. It's alright. We should have never come skiing. We should have never come to ski. The 3 office ladies started crying again. This time it was all of them. I want to go home. I haven't done anything wrong, but I want to go home. That's Tsuneki. Their crying subsided into sobs. Kyoko-san suddenly got up and started walking around. Where are you going? Kobayashi-san said, surprised. I thought I'd go and get something for us to relax with. Some hot chocolate or something like that to drink. No way! There's no way I'd drink something that was poured by someone who might be a killer, Aki-chan suddenly said, in a loud voice. But Kyoko-san was unfazed. There's no way that Kyoko-san would be the killer. And besides, even if that were the case, you know that we've been eating and drinking her meals and the drinks that she's prepared the whole time, ever since you came. If she really wanted to kill everyone would be dead already. I said in a quiet voice, as to calm the 3 women down. Well, that's right. Todd is right, you know? Yeah. Well, there's no way I could imagine that someone like Kyoko-san is the killer. Both Kayama-san and his wife, Haruko, agreed with me. Okay, Aki-chan replied, seemingly understanding the situation. Okay, well, I'll go together with you, Mani-san said, standing up. I can move really quickly and instinctively, so if we're attacked by someone, then we can attack them back together. as it was necessary to not let Kyoko-san go alone. We had to send Mari to go with her. But even then I still felt worried about the situation. If anything strange happens, just yell in a loud voice, alright? I said. And Mari-san turned and smiled weakly. Okay. Make sure you come and rescue me on your horse. Your white horse. Nobody laughed, but the atmosphere of tension weakened somewhat. As Kyoko-san and Mari both went to the kitchen, an atmosphere of unease came upon the room. Well, we've no choice but to spend the night like this, until morning, Toshio-san said suddenly. I nodded. I guess that is the best thing, I said. If the killer isn't someone that's amongst us now, they must be some kind of magician who can appear and disappear at will. Someone who can enter buildings and rooms freely without anyone noticing. Even if you went back to your room alone, locked the door, do you think you'd be able to sleep soundly? Well, yeah, I guess I wouldn't be able to. Not at all. But think about it. If this killer was really trying to kill all of us, no matter who it was, do you really think... Do you really think they'd kill us in such a sluggish manner? If it was me, I would have killed a lot more people when everybody wasn't being cautious. That was a strange point. Well, I guess you could think about it that way, Mikimoto-san said. His face looked as if it was in pain. Well, if their goal was to make the people remaining feel a sense of fear. Feel a sense of fear? What do you mean? I asked. Well, in other words, if... Well, if this culprit has some kind of considerable grudge or resentment to all of us, or perhaps one of us in the group, maybe they wouldn't settle for just murder. Maybe, like how a cat plays with a rat before it kills it, they're just trying to make us as scared as possible until the end, before they kill us. That's just what I was thinking. So they're trying to make us scared, and then they kill us. If that really is the case, I wonder what kind of grudge this person has. Would there really be someone with a grudge like that here in this room? So the person that has that grudge, in other words, well, everybody else, they don't have anything to do with it, right? Keiko said, peering at Mikimoto-san. I wonder. Well, someone hit my head, but it's strange. I didn't feel like they were trying to kill me. Well, of course, maybe they just weren't able to follow through because other people arrived on the scene, but I don't know. I feel like maybe they don't intend to kill people that don't have anything to do with this grudge. Don't be ridiculous. So what does that make Midori? Huh? This culprit, he's already killed someone that isn't involved, Toshio-san said, flying into a rage. How would you know who has anything to do with the situation and who doesn't? Mikimoto-san asked back. Toshio-san's face grew bright red, and he flew into more of a rage. What are you talking about? Midori's... His voice stopped. I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak ill of her, it's just... When you think about all the possibilities, it just seems like this culprit was pushed into a situation where it seemed like he had to kill her. That's what it feels like. So, what? What kind of reason could this person have had for killing someone like Midori? As Mikimoto-san spoke, Toshio-san's anger gradually started to change into sadness. His tears, which had once dried, appeared once again. This almost seemed to invite sympathy from the women and Haruko-san, as tears began to well in their eyes as well. Perhaps Toshio-san truly loved Midori. It was something I didn't know, not being able to know what kind of people they were. Yeah, maybe this is all some kind of act. All of it. Maybe he killed Midori-san. And now he's making it seem as if he loved her, so as not to be found suspect of her murder. I was disgusted at myself for thinking such a thing. Why? Why am I so suspicious of people like this all of a sudden? I can't even feel sorry for a person who's lost someone that they loved and is in deep despair as a result. But all of this is because we don't know the true identity of the killer. Is it someone that we don't know? Or is it one of us? As long as that remains unclear, there's nothing we can do. Which reminds me, there was something I couldn't quite work out when Mikimoto-san was speaking before. was when he said, "It feels like the killer was forced into a situation where he had to kill Midori. He had some reason to kill Midori. At least that's what it felt like. Some kind of reason that led to having to kill Midori. I considered that once before. Why was Midori-san killed? What did she see? Did she see the killer? I came up with something that I felt I should do first and foremost. And that was to search Tanaka-san's room, every nook and cranny within it. Midori-san went to that room, and then she was killed. There must be some kind of clue in there. If possible, I'd like to look at it by myself. But seeing as earlier I'd said that nobody could do anything alone, so there's no way I'd be able to do it at this point. And of course, I know that going there alone is dangerous. But taking someone who could be the culprit into the room would be more dangerous. So, who should I go with? I found the answer straight away. Mari. If I went with Mari, I'd be able to search the room. And I'd be safe. Finally, Mari and Kyoko returned to the lounge, carrying a tray filled with cups. "Sorry for the wait," Mari said, trying to put on her brightest voice possible. When thinking that Midori-san had said pretty much the same thing, only just a few moments earlier, I found myself overcome with a strange feeling. This person who only a few hours prior had been so lively and full of energy was now growing cold. Hot cocoa was distributed amongst everyone in the group. The three women carefully watched as everybody else in the group put their lips to the cups and started drinking before they themselves started drinking. The warm, sweet cocoa relaxed us like nothing else. Tiredness of our minds and the tiredness of our bodies, it all seemed to melt away. And after I'd taken a deep breath, and after everything had more or less calmed down, I said to Mari, "Would you just be able to come with me for a moment?" "Where?" "I thought I'd go and check Tanaka-san's room." Everybody suddenly turned to face me. "Why do you want to search that room?" Kobayashi-san said. "When Midori-san was killed, or before she was killed, she tried to go to the room." "That's right, wasn't it, Kobayashi-san?" Yeah, that's right, but what has that got to do with..." "Well, she probably found something that was connected to the incident. And because she got so close to the truth, she was killed. So I thought maybe the best thing for me to do would be to search every corner of the room. You're going to do that? Toshio-san said, peering at me. Yeah. So, if you're the killer, how can you prove that you're not going to destroy evidence? Well, you don't have any proof, do you? Well, I'm not going to go there by myself. I'm going with Mari. Right. So, what if the both of you are the culprit? You don't have any proof that you're not. Okay then, well the three of us will go together. You won't object to that, will you? In that case, Toshio-san, maybe you can choose another person. Oh. Who's offering to have a third person? What? You don't want to go with me? Toshio-san said, furrowing his brows. If he's the killer, he might destroy some evidence. Thinking about that possibility, I thought that it'd perhaps be better to choose someone else to go with us. But at this point... I felt like refusing Toshio-san's offer to go together with us would just make our relationship worse. And even if I refused his offer, I don't think he'd let me and Mari go together. But even then, even if we went with somebody else, that person could be the criminal. There's also that possibility. If that's the case, then they would also be able to destroy evidence if they went together with us. I found myself going around and round in circles. And then I decided to say either A or B. So we've got A is... sure, okay, Toshio-san, let's go. Or B is... sorry, Toshio-san, let me go with someone else. Toshio-san, I don't know. Don't know if I don't know about Toshio-san. I don't feel like he's dangerous. He's a little bit suspicious, but I don't think he's the most plausible person in the group. I reckon, to me, Mikimoto-san is the most suspicious, to be honest. By far. So, let's see. Maybe let's go with him. And then, I don't know, maybe he'll kill us. But that way we'll find out, won't we? Okay, well. A it is. Alright, Toshio-san. Let's go then. Having said that, it's not like I was throwing out my suspicions of Toshio-san altogether. But thinking about his expression when he lost Midori-san, It didn't seem like a lie to me at all. That's how I thought, anyway. Nobody objected to us three going together. Alright, let's go then, shall we? As we finished drinking our cocoa, we got up to leave. Don't do anything to hinder the investigation, Kobayashi-san said after us. The police investigation. Of course, there was no way I intended to do anything like that. But I couldn't make assurances so long as I didn't know what we were getting ourselves into or what we should be searching for. In any case, I just nodded and the three of us went upstairs. Oh, I'm scared about going in this room. I don't want to go back in there. Standing in front of Tanaka-san's room, I felt my feet go cold. There was cool air seeping out from beneath the doorway. So what exactly do you intend to look for? Toshio-san said, questioning me. Unable to answer, I was silent, and I opened the door. Thousands of tiny snowflakes flew about the room. It was like a freezer in there. The bed had been half covered from snow that was blowing in from the window, whose glass window is now missing. Oh my god, it's so cold. I can't last 5 minutes in these clothes, Mori-san said, shaking. In any case, I'm going to check the bathroom. As if to escape the snow, we all piled into the bathroom. All three of us couldn't fit in there together, so the door was open. It was a somewhat narrow unit bath. At first glance, there was nothing that seemed out of place. So either I can check whether they've used the soap or not. I can check whether the bathtub has been used or not. And check whether the bath towel is wet, damp or not. I don't know. Bathtub, maybe? I'm going to check whether the bathtub's been used. Might be some kind of clue there, who knows? I don't know, I feel like maybe there's nothing here though. I don't know, let's go with B. I decided to check whether the bathtub had been used or not. There was no signs that the bathtub had been wet or anything like that. In fact, there was no sign that it had been used at all. Underneath the sink, I looked into the toilet, the Western style toilet underneath the sink, but of course there was nothing there either. So this is one of those really tiny bathrooms, I imagine, where the toilet is kind of, it's right next to where that sink is. Kind of right, so when you sat down, like it'd be right next to your head kind of thing. Everything's kind of all in the same room. I used to live in an apartment that was kind of like that. Looking up into the ceiling, there was a small shape of a square cut into the ceiling. It was where the manhole was. I think that's what you'd probably call it. It's like an area above the ceiling where sort of like cables and sort of various things are that sort of workmen might need when they do repairs and that kind of thing. If they need to get into the space like just above the bathroom, there's kind of a little sort of latch there. I don't know how easy it is to open. I don't think it's that easy to open. You have to kind of get a ladder and some kind of thing to open it with, I think. Marty, I want to look above that latch. I'll put you on my shoulders, so would you be able to just have a quick look inside? I said. Sure, but will you be alright? I'm pretty heavy, Marty-san said. What, about 70 kilos? Don't be so rude. I'm not that heavy. Okay, well, it's fine. I'm a man, after all. Crouching down, I let Marty come onto my shoulders. Alright, so this is a bit a shitty way of writing this scene, but it says, it was a shame that she wasn't wearing a skirt, but I could feel her thighs inside her jeans. Hope you're not thinking of anything perverted, Marty-san said. I'm not, I said. And stood up. She's heavy, alright. So I thought, but I didn't dare put it into words. Marty removed the small plank in the ceiling and put her head up through the hole in the ceiling. Can you see anything? Nothing. Nothing at all. It was hard work, but in any case, we were able to find that there was no clues in the bathroom. Oh my god, I'm gonna freeze to death, quick! I heard Toshio-san's voice from the other room. I put Marty down and then we hurried back into the room. Next up was the closet. We made sure that nobody was hiding there just before, but we hadn't searched the baggage and the clothes that were there. Leaving the curtain open, the three of us started to search the inside. There was a grey coat hanging on the hangers. Below that, there were big casters. What are casters? Caster. I guess maybe that's like ski terminology, maybe? So ski caster? Not sure what that is. Underneath the coat there were large casters placed on the bag. I crouched down and brought the bag closer to me. There was nothing inside. I checked the side pockets as well, but there wasn't so much as a scrap of paper in there. I guess the culprit stole them, Mani-san said. I said... what did I say? I would say that, yep, they probably did steal them, or no, they didn't steal anything. I don't know, there's no way of knowing either way, so I'll just go with A. Yeah, I guess they did steal them. I wonder what they stole though, Mari-san asked. 200 million yen, perhaps? I said. I thought about the conversation we had about the bank robbery. What about the clothes? Toshio-san said. Huh? Clothes? Well, even if he looks like he didn't want to come for skiing, maybe at least he had some kind of change of clothes. Well, if it was any kind of normal situation, that might be the case, but if it's a criminal on the run, I don't know. Maybe they didn't have time to prepare anything. Mari searched the pockets on the coat. There's no wallet or anything either. Maybe it was taken. Yeah. Maybe they took it so that their identity couldn't be found out. Next up was the inside of the room. We searched the entirety of the room, checking if there was anything that belonged to Tanaka-san. Tanaka-san watched us, shivering. Quickly! If you want to leave the room, hurry up and leave the room then, I said, as if to bully Toshio-san. But he was silent. We took one long look around the room and checked underneath the beds as well, but there was nothing. The only place that remained was the area underneath the window, which was where the corpse was. So I guess we have to search the corpse as well. Whether it was the cold or not, I found my voice shivering. It could have also been that I was afraid. I suppose so. I'm going to pass this time, Mari-san said. I made my way through the snow to where the corpse was. It was so cold that it was as if I was walking on ice in bare feet without any slippers or anything. Heck. Achoo! Achoo? Oh, I just sneezed. Making my way around the bed, I slowly went to the area where the corpse was. Thankfully, it was covered in snow and I couldn't see anything. But my joy was short-lived, as I then realized that I had to brush aside the snow and check the body. God damn it. Feeling my entire body shake, I started to brush the snow aside. I heard the slight brushing sound of material, and my hand felt something light. It was frozen human hair. Without trying not to touch the corpse, I slowly brushed away all the snow. The body, which had been cut into pieces, slowly began to reveal itself. I felt something bitter rise from the bottom of my stomach. I really don't think Midori-san came here to check the room. It doesn't seem like she touched anything. I guess so. So, what was it? I heard Mari-san ask from a distance. Hey, let's just go back for a bit, Toshio-san said from the doorway. I was in agreement. Oh, so no clues in the room. That's tough. I've got nothing. Feeling much colder than I was when we went outside into the snow, we returned to the lounge. Everybody was there and unharmed. No one had left. Did you find anything? Kobayashi-san said, looking at the three of us. Nothing at all. It seemed like the killer took everything that Tanaka-san had and left. Mari-san answered, seeing that my lips were frozen and unable to speak. I see. Well, I guess maybe he was carrying some kind of exorbitant amount of money. Maybe that was their goal, Kobayashi-san whispered. Oh, it's cold. Trying to warm my body up, I stood underneath the heater. I heard the sound of something dropping outside. There was a loud sound coming from outside the window. I got a small shock. But then I remembered that snow falls from roofs at times like this. And it was just that sound. You're still scared by that snow, Mari-san said, as if making fun of me. Well, if it's a sound as loud as that, of course everyone's going to be scared, I said, and shut my mouth. What's wrong? Why the weird face? I must have been wearing such a strange expression to have Mari-san ask such a worrying thing like that. At that point, I found myself starting to think about a certain possibility. It seemed too ridiculous to comprehend, though. And so I said, okay, so here we can say that we know who the criminal is, who killed Tanaka-san. We can say that we know who killed Tanaka-san. We can say that we know who killed Midori-san, B. Or we could say that we know who the culprit is for everything. Or we could say that we don't know who the culprit is at this point in time at all. Whoa, this is tough. I don't know. I don't know if we know anything. But I guess that the sound of the snow falling off the roof obviously triggered some kind of realization. So what does it mean? I'm inclined to think that the sound, hearing the sound of something and thinking that it's something, but really it's something else, I think is a big point. So like the sound of the window breaking, we don't really know what that was, how that happened, what it signifies, and whether it's got anything to do with the murder of Tanaka-san or not. I don't know. This is difficult. Personally, I think Mikimoto-san killed both Tanaka-san and Midori-san. So I kind of want to go with C and just try Mikimoto-san and see what happens there. Could be just like a really kind of premature ending, but at least then we know that that's the wrong choice. So we can just save it here, so that we can come back to this point. I'm sure we'll be able to come back anyway, but a bit of saving never hurt anyone. So, shall we try C and see what happens if we answer with Mikimoto-san? I don't know. Let's just try it. I know the culprit behind both incidents that happened tonight, I said. Really? So, you know who killed Tanaka-san? Mari-san said suspiciously. So we can say A is, yeah, of course. Or B is like, I don't know who killed Tanaka-san. Let's just go A. Yep. Yeah, I said, answering swiftly. Really? You do? Who is it? Mari-san asked. Without answering her directly, I turned to face everyone and started speaking. When we heard the sound of the window breaking, everybody except for Toshio-san had gathered here in the lounge. So initially, I thought if the culprit was one of us, then that would make Toshio-san the most suspicious. Anxiously, everybody stole a glance at Toshio-san. He looked annoyed, but he returned everybody's line of sight. But I realized that if you were to use a trick of some sort, even people that were in the lounge at that time could have committed the crime. As I said so, everybody's expressions with regards to Toshio-san began to loosen. A trick? Mari asked. Yeah, like a time delay trick. Time delay? Like sort of a delayed attack, that kind of thing. I wonder what you call this. Jikan-sa. Like a time delayed attack kind of thing. Yeah. When we heard the sound of the window breaking, we all rushed upstairs. But we don't know that the window broke at that exact time. But the window's broken, Kobayashi-san said, as if he didn't understand. That's what I mean by a time delay. Of course, the window's broken, but that doesn't mean that the sound that we heard was that window being broken. Wouldn't you say? The sound? So that means that you just have to make the sound afterwards, right? Mari-san said, looking at me. That's right. I nodded. After dinner, the culprit visited Tanaka-san's room, murdered him, and cut his body into pieces. Then he broke the window without making a sound. How? For example, you could do it like this. You could use some masking tape, some kind of plastic tape, put it over the window, and then strike it strongly. That way there'd be no sound, and the window wouldn't shatter either. That's how a burglar would do it anyway. You're pretty well versed in some strange things, my boy, Kayama-san said, looking suspiciously in my direction. Flustered, I shook my head. I just saw it on TV, I said. Okay, so we know that the window was broken without any sound being made. So what happened after that? Mighty-san said. So after that, the culprit put a tape recorder somewhere that they'd prepared earlier. A tape recorder? There was nothing like that in the room. It doesn't have to be in the room, I said. When we first heard the sound, we didn't know where it came from, right? Yeah, I guess so, but is there such a tape recorder that could make such a loud sound like that? It'd have to be pretty big, wouldn't it? Mari-san had a point. Not to mention that the culprit would have had to have brought a tape with the sound of breaking glass on it. I don't think that sounds very plausible. Kobayashi-san also had a point. Maybe they recorded it when they actually broke the glass. There would have been a small sound in any case. And maybe they just turned the volume up and played that. At the time, it didn't really sound like that. I don't think just turning the volume up would make it sound like an actual window breaking, Mari-san said. So I corrected my thinking. Alright, well, maybe it was like this. It was really the sound of glass breaking. But it wasn't the window from that room. Maybe it was glass that the culprit had prepared somewhere else. I looked around at everyone's faces to see their reaction. But that means that the culprit would have had to have broken glass somewhere, right? How? And how did they bring glass in here? Mani-san thought of problems left, right, and center. That's just a trifling problem, I said. Somewhat annoyed. If my assumption is incorrect, that means that Toshio-san's the criminal. But as for me, I don't know about Tanaka-san, but I'm sure that he wouldn't have been able to kill Midori-san. A faint light appeared in Toshio-san's dark eyes. So if it's not me, who is it then? He said with a dry voice. I was silent for a moment, and then put my thoughts in order. Well, if it's using a tape recorder or not, if there's a way to make the sound of glass breaking, that means that someone who was in the lounge at the time could have committed the crime. But even amongst those people, there were a handful of them who wouldn't have been able to go up to the second floor, or wouldn't have been able to do anything else, given the short amount of time they had. So let's work our way through the people here and see who that was. So first of all, Mari and I were in the cafeteria until the end of dinner, and we never ended up going back to the second floor. And I think there's quite a few people that would serve as alibis for us for that. Next, as far as Kobayashi-san is concerned, he was at the front desk after dinner, and he was together with us. We didn't see his wife for a while, but obviously she was likely cleaning up after dinner in the kitchen. Looking over to both Kobayashi-san and his wife, they both nodded in agreement. It was quite a while after dinner had finished that Mikimoto-san arrived here. There was only a very short amount of time he had to go to the second floor, to put his bags down, and then come back. Even if he used a chainsaw or something like that, it would have been impossible for Mikimoto-san to do it. Yeah, but I'm thinking that when Mikimoto-san walked into the guest house, that wasn't when he got there. That's what I'm thinking. He could have arrived like way earlier, because he called. He could have a cell phone or something. Although they did say that there's no reception, but he could have, when he called, there's no way of knowing that he was actually at the station and he was running late. He could have been anywhere, and he could have found some way to sneak into Tanaka-san's room, or they could have met somewhere, and he could have killed him, and then taken the pieces upstairs. I don't know. Now I don't know. Now my reasoning is being destroyed. Continuing my reasoning, I looked around to see if there were anybody disagreed, but there were none. The three office ladies, Watase-san, Kitano-san, and Kawamura-san, there was that incident with the threatening letter, so they did return to their room for a little bit, but then they came straight back downstairs. So they didn't have any time either. I was silent for a moment. I hesitated to continue speaking. And Kayama-san said, looking at me expectantly. I tried my best not to look at his face as I continued speaking. That's all. We've eliminated everybody except for Kayama-san and his wife. In other words, the culprit is either one of these two people. Haruko had a look of shock on her face as Kayama-san and me exchanged glances. Don't be ridiculous, Kayama-san spurted. Why would someone like me... Why... How... It's impossible. I would have never had time to cut someone into pieces. I was together with Haruko. We were together the whole time. Isn't that right, Haruko? Haruko had a look of surprise on her face, as if she'd been faced with something completely unexpected. Yes, that's right. A silence fell on the room that made my stomach cramp. I continued speaking in order to break the silence. Okay, well, let's think about the second incident. When Mikimoto-san was attacked, the people that were outside were myself, Kobayashi-san, and Toshio-san. Almost everyone else was in the lounge waiting, except for one person. Kayama-san. Everybody in the room fixed their gaze on Kayama-san. Me? I was here, wasn't I? No. When we returned, you weren't there. According to Muddy, she said that you'd gone upstairs to try your mobile telephone. Yeah, that's right. So, how was I able to attack Mikimoto-san, who was outside? I was inside on the second floor. If you think about it, it's really quite simple, I said. I looked around at everyone, but nobody said anything. Basically, the area in which Mikimoto-san was attacked was directly below Tanaka-san's room. And directly in front of Tanaka-san's room, with the corridor separating it, is Kayama-san's room. Being able to move between those two areas without being seen by anyone is actually quite a simple thing. I heard Mari gasp. So, you mean that Kayama-san did something to Mikimoto-san from Tanaka-san's room? From above? Probably. It's quite simple when you think about it. Using a rope, placing something heavy and hard on the end of it, like a rock or something. After that, all you have to do is just wait for someone to come by. And all you have to do is swing it like a pendulum. I swung my arms gently to show everyone. So that's why neither Toshio-san nor Kobayashi-san saw anyone either in front of Mikimoto-san or behind him. In other words, the criminal wasn't at the scene of the crime. Initially, I didn't have much confidence in this line of reasoning, but when I started speaking about it, I began to think that perhaps it was correct. You bastard! Toshio-san suddenly flew at Kayama-san, who was seated on the sofa. You bastard! Crying as if crazed, he put his hands around Kayama-san's neck. Kayama-san flung his arms around, trying to loosen Toshio-san's grip on his neck, but he couldn't. Everybody in the group, dumbfounded, could only stare on. But when everybody heard Kayama-san's desperate cries, Kobayashi-san hurriedly tried to stop Toshio-san. Toshio, stop it! Hearing Kobayashi-san's words, Mikimoto-san flew into action as well. Stop it! We can't let violence happen here, he said, reaching for Toshio-san's arms. Instinctively, I stood in front of Mari to protect her. Let me go! Let me go! Crying like a wild dog, Toshio-san was gradually pulled away from Kayama-san by the two of them. Stifling his coughs with one hand, Kayama-san holding one hand over his throat, Kayama-san stifled his coughs. His wife, Haruko-san, was white as a piece of paper and simply shook quietly. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you, Kayama-san, Toshio-san said, while being pinned back by Mikimoto-san. His eyes, as if burning, peered directly at Kayama-san. Calm down, Toshio, Kayama-san said, and gave him even one firm slap on his cheek. Upon hearing this loud sound, all of us stood in shock. Toshio-san himself found himself staring at Kobayashi-san. Why? Why, Kobayashi? He stared painfully at Kobayashi-san, surprised, as if he could barely speak. It's no good considering Kayama-san as the culprit when there's no definite evidence. You should know that more than anyone. Next he turned to me. Alright, Toru, that's enough. It's about time you stopped accusing people left, right and center. You're going to cause confusion amongst everyone. I was a little shocked, but no sooner had I started to open my mouth than Mari-san dove into the conversation. He's not just accusing anyone. Uncle, are you really trying to protect someone that you've been friends with for such a long time? Ah. Are you protecting him because he's such an old friend? If you think that what Toru said was wrong, then you should come up with your own idea. Kobayashi-san stood with his mouth open, but he didn't have anything to say. Suddenly, Aki-chan with the glasses stood up and shouted, I don't want to be here with everyone. I'm going back to my room. When she said everyone, really what she meant was just Kayama-san. I'm going back too. Both Kanako and Keiko stood up as well. Just wait a sec. It's much safer for everyone to stay together. I've already said so, haven't I? So... Aki was almost surprised at what Kobayashi-san was saying. Well, then you should tie up this old man somewhere. There's no way I'd be drinking tea with someone like him. She screamed. This girl who until recently I'd thought was just some kind of lively girl was staring at Kobayashi-san with hatred. I felt my spine freeze when I saw her. In any case, I don't intend to leave my room. Not ever. Not for any reason. Without waiting to hear any objections, she decisively strode up to the second floor. Is she going to be alright? I don't think she'll be okay by herself, Mikimoto-san said. I don't think these girls will be okay by themselves, Mikimoto-san said, staring up at their backs as they climbed the stairs. If the culprit dies, everybody will be able to sleep soundly, Toshio-san said, staring at Kayama-san. You still think I'm the criminal? Well, come to mention it, Toshio. You're the one that's the most suspicious. No amount of crying is going to fool me. What was that, old man? You still trying to play the fool? Toshio-san's face grew bright red as he shouted. Just please everyone stop! A scream was heard across the room. Kyoko-san had both hands on her face, and she'd collapsed in tears. Toshio-san stood. What does this mean? Toshio-san stood dumbfounded. Aren't you ashamed to be so doubtful of each other? So threatening? But, Kyoko, this beast did something awful to Midori. Toshio-san tried saying, but his words wouldn't reach Kyoko's ears. There's no way. It's all a lie. This is all just some kind of bad dream. There's no way something like this would happen. She had a blank expression as she sobbed continually. Kyoko, get a hold of yourself, Kobayashi-san said, calling to her wife, shaking her shoulders. Upon doing so, she stopped crying. She stopped audibly crying. Looking at the two of them, Toshio-san turned around to face me. Toru. Huh? What do you think? You're obviously confident about your reasoning. You can say, yep, I'm confident, or, to be honest, I'm not that confident. I don't know. Kayama-san, I guess he is a bit suspicious. I guess he is. So, oops. Let's go with A. That's right. I am confident, I said. So, what do you think we should do? Upon hearing Toshio-san, I took a quick look at Kayama-san. In a sullen manner, he was averting his gaze. I didn't believe that I was wrong. But was this person really a murderer? The more I looked at his face, the less confident I felt. Would this kind-seeming person really be able to commit such an awful crime? But having said that, there isn't really anyone amongst us that look like they'd be able to kill someone. And besides, just looking at people's faces as they are, I think even the police would have a hard time trying to figure out who the criminal was. How about we do this? I said, thinking carefully. As I was thinking carefully, Mikimoto-san suddenly opened his mouth. I don't have the confidence to clearly say that Kayama-san's the murderer, but it's indeed the most plausible way of thinking. I apologize for saying so if really there's no connection involved, but thinking about everyone's safety, I guess the only thing to do would be to lock Kayama-san down in the basement room, wouldn't it? Basement room. I see, Toshio-san said, looking at the door down the corridor. Wait a second. The basement room? It's so cold down there. There's no way I'm going in a place like that. Flustered and shaking his head, Kayama-san spoke coldly towards Toshio-san. It's a wine cellar, so we keep a regular temperature down there. And if it's still cold, despite that, well, you can take blankets and other things to warm you. I guess so, but I decided to speak to Kayama-san, who had an anxious look on his face. Well, I think it's alright, Kayama-san. That means that you'll be protected in there as well. If we give the key to Kobayashi-san, then that means that Toshio-san won't come attacking you in the middle of the night. Plus, if you're not the culprit, it also means you'll be protected from the real culprit. After looking at mine and Toshio-san's face for a while, Kayama-san looked deep in thought. I suppose so. If it's safe, then... He nodded, somewhat begrudgingly. Alright, then it's decided. That's right with you, isn't it, Kobayashi-san? Toshio-san asked Kobayashi-san. But dealing with his wife, who continued to cry, Kobayashi-san could only nod. Toshio-san went to the front desk, took a key off the wall, and then spoke to Kayama-san. Alright. In here, Mr. Guest. I felt a chill run down my spine. There was a slight look of unease to that smile. Something suspicious. Or so I felt. I hope it's comfortable, Kayama-san said, somewhat sarcastically. Haruko-san looked worried, but eventually nodded. Mari, sorry, but could you bring maybe 2 or 3 blankets for us? Opening the door to the basement room, Tanaka-san turned around. And while you're there, also bring maybe 5 or 6 magazines as well. Toshio-san glared angrily at Kayama-san as he spoke. I guess he was still angry at Kayama-san. But there was no explosion of anger this time. Marty headed upstairs to the 2nd floor and immediately brought back down blankets and the magazines that had been asked for. Well then, good night everyone, Kayama-san said as he was handed the magazines and the blankets. And smiling wryly, he headed down into the basement room. Lit by the light of the light bulb on the staircase, he descended slowly down. As Kayama-san's back disappeared from sight, Toshio-san closed the door and carefully locked it. Well, I think perhaps let's leave it there for tonight.